Even if we will be present in the counties, we'll still be a national institutions controlled nationally under the oversight of the Ministry of Health.
Let me just, in terms of, you said something in terms of whether you're not sure that you will be running the small centers within the counties. Yes. Brings the issue of quality. And somebody was asking, in terms of how do you determine quality? And how do you make sure that the drugs that you provide or that you buy is what exactly ends up in the market? And here I'm talking about various players. People obviously have interest in terms of cartels who will deliver medical supplies to your yes, customers. Yes. How does that work? How do you determine whether what you give is what ends up in the shelves?
Let me tell you currently how we do it and how we are thinking, because the thinking about the counties is still work in progress, is yes, still evolving. Currently, everything is procured centrally. And first and foremost, for anybody to supply us, there is what we call pre-qualification. We do pre-qualification where people submit their interest and we go through their documents, evaluate, audit them, and assess their suitability and enlist them as possible suppliers.
Do you go around in all these centers to make sure that whatever they have in the stores is from KEMSA? Or is that something that that requires perhaps a different player? Like the new anti-counterfeit agency, in terms of what ends up in the shelves?
At the moment, we are not able to go to each one of the stores that are within the country, the 4,500 at one go. But yes, we are able to do that because I told you that we have regional representation, and the regional teams do visit the facilities, and what they do is they do what we call post-distribution surveillance. They do random sampling to go and check that facility, what medicines do they have, how are they storing it.
And is it from your stores?
Is it from the stores?
If they're not from the stores, what sort of, is there a punishment? Is there a punitive measure that you take in terms of?
Yes, I need to differentiate the role of KEMSA and the regulator. We have a regulator within the health sector called the Pharmacy and Poisons Board.
Yes.
That is the medicines regulator. And
that is not KEMSA.
They have an inspectorate team, they have drug inspectors, they have pharmaceutical inspectors. That is their role. That is their role. But we work very closely. Being government agencies, we work very, very closely. Well so if we went to any facility and found anything suspicious, then we would pass the information to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. If the inspectors of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board would pick anything that looks suspicious, they would come and verify with us if really it came from us.
That's important.
If it's not from us, what are the possible causes? And we also work with the National Quality Control Laboratory, which is a government laboratory. The National Quality Control Laboratory is also a government agency under the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. So for anything that is suspect, if we are not able to certify if it's genuine or not genuine, we in KEMSA, we have a small laboratory where we do the basic tests. If we require to do elaborate testing to establish the quality, the authenticity of the product, whether it's counterfeit or otherwise, we'll use the facilities at the National Quality Laboratory.
Okay, we're running a bit of time, but let me just ask just one more question. In terms of, you've heard about this, of course, in terms of condoms disappearing, and many people ask, so how did that happen? And who should we ask in terms of ensuring that there's a constant supply of condoms in the country? Is that KEMSA?
Jimmy, condoms are largely, at the moment, they are largely donor-funded. Donor-funded, I mean, even though there could be government contribution into the funding of the procurement of condoms, they are largely funded by donors. And the recent story that you are referring to for the delay in the supply of condoms, those particular condoms were to be supplied by one of the United Nations, UN agencies, UNFPA.
Right.
I cannot be competent at this point in time to be the one to talk on their behalf and say, give the reasons that led to the delays. But apparently, there were long delays in the supplyment of this consignment. KEMSA is not involved in the procurement of condoms. But however, when they are procured, and mainly they are procured through the Ministry of Public Health and Sanitation, because they are the ones that are involved in health promotive activities and preventive activities. And you know, condoms, basically we use condoms for two things. They are used in family planning, and they are used for preventive purposes to prevent possibility of getting infected by HIV, AIDS, by sexually transmitted diseases. And therefore, they are very important. It's a commodity as well, a very important one. But we are not directly involved in the procurement of it. But as and when it is procured, it's delivered into the KEMSA warehouses, and we distribute it to all the user points where it's required. And it is distributed at 2 levels. One, we distribute to the health facilities, the government health facilities, and then there are also the social places, the bars, the nightclubs, and that is not done by KEMSA. That one we distribute up to the district stores, and we have staff from our other departments within the ministry that now take over and work with other social groups to distribute them to other outlets outside the government facilities. But to the government facilities and to the district stores, that is done by us. So I may not answer your question about why there's a delay.
No, I think you have.
all I know is that in the next 1 week or so, the information that we have in KEMSA is that we expect those condoms to reach KEMSA. And when they get to KEMSA, I can assure the viewers that within 2 weeks, they will be where they are needed.
Absolutely. Final question, which is, I think is very important. There has been talk about the local generic drug manufactured locally.
Yes.
We still have multinationals who are big players in terms of promoting the local drug.
Yes.
Has KEMSA done anything in terms of fighting for to protect, of course, the local manufacturer and pushing for the local generic drug to be delivered or to be distributed locally?
Jimmy, I want to say that I'd emphasize that it is very important to promote local manufacturing.
Absolutely.
If we are to be self-sustainable and if we are to achieve the objective that we have set for Vision 2030, we need to be self-reliant. We need to have our own capacity as a country to be able to produce medicines that will meet the local needs for our population. That's very important. To do that, we must support and we must encourage local entrepreneurs into local production of medicines for local needs and even for export. In terms of the arguments as to whether we try to support the local manufacturers vis-a-vis the multinationals, first and foremost, our procurement is done on open international tendering system. So we do not say that it will be the local manufacturers, it will be the multinationals. We float out tenders transparently, openly, on open international tenders. However, we do know that in the Public Procurement Act 2005, there is a provision that there should be some domestic preference for up to 15%. This means that when we do procurement, the Act expects that we would give some preference to domestic manufacturers to the consideration of up to 15%. However, unfortunately, at this point in time, the guidelines and the regulations to operationalize this provision of the Act is not yet ready. But I'm also very much aware that the Public Procurement Oversight is actually working on it, and I'm sure it's any time very soon, this will be actualized and will be able to give that benefit to the local manufacturers, that preferential treatment. At the moment, we are not. But again, to answer your question more directly, as much as possible, when we do the evaluation of our tenders, as much as possible, where we can see that there's a good bid, the local manufacturer has a good bid, the quality is right, the product is right, we do not hesitate to give that kind of preference to the local manufacturers.
Can I ask what determines it to be up to your standards? What will make you then move it forward?
What will make us move to the local manufacturer?
Yeah, what determines a good quality local drug? For you to say, yes, this one we can then move. And
before we go, we start in procurement, we have to have specifications for what we need. For every medicine, we have we set out the specifications. This is the minimum we want for this medicine. This is the minimum we need for this consumable. This is the minimum we need of this equipment. So as long as the person meets the minimum, and then we have to do what we call the commercial evaluation, look at other parameters. How soon can you supply? Do you have X stock? What is your price compared to the others? And again, we are heavily guided by the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. And therefore, whatever we do must be within the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. And therefore, that's why I said we may not at the moment be able to give any significant preferential treatment to the domestic manufacturers. But very soon, when the Public Procurement Oversight actualizes or operationalizes the new provision, we shall be able to give them the preference. And we encourage, and to encourage them, sometimes we specifically fruit some, we do a tethering system called the Open National Tethering System. Open National Tethering System means that it is open to the nationals of that of the country. And when we do that, then they benefit.
Absolutely. Dr. Munyo, thank you very much for
that very
informative discussion. Thank you very much for that information. It's a lot we haven't, we've learned now in terms of how KEMSA works. So no, don't blame them for the condoms. They're waiting for them just like you are.
The condoms are coming.
But they are coming, yes. The ship has docked,
Yes.
So you're just waiting in about a week's
time.
In a week's time you should have it.